This is how you can parse on Sulfur Harbinger and Domo without having an excellent raid comp, although this raid comp is excellent. What you do is that on Sulfur Harbinger, each of these 4 priests is targeted by one of the 4 mage DPS. The reason that you have the mages target them is because Counterspell is off the GCD. So the mages can simply run into melee range, hit Arcane Explosion over and over again, and then hit Counterspell when the mob begins to actually cast its heal. After all the Counterspells have been done, if your raid has low DPS, you could use an Arcane Bomb to buy yourself an extra 5 seconds. Everyone else is just going to focus the boss, and you're going to use a free action potion so that way you don't get knocked all over the place all the time. Now, I'm sure that seemed safe, but stacking all the mobs together on Domo likely seems dangerous to you. First, I want you to pay attention to how quickly the ads die. We're doing the exact same thing. 1 mage on each of the 4 healers, but the DPS is going to kill Skull and X first. These are the large mobs, the elites. Now, something I want you to do is pay attention to how all the mobs die at the same time. Why is this important? Because most of the damage being done here to those extra mobs isn't the 20 warriors. It's the caster DPS, which means if you have a weak raid comp, this strategy is actually safer. But I'm going to prove that. We're going to look at the logs right after this clip, so that way I can show you the mob behavior. So that way you'll be completely convinced about why the amount of AoE damage you take is super limited. And in case you weren't paying attention to the raid's damage taken there, go rewind this and look at the health bars. They hardly move during this fight. Yes, we do have 2 pre-popped protection potions. Now for the proof on why you don't actually take a lot of raid damage if you do this. What we are looking at is the enemy's casts for the Major Domo fight. We're looking at Blast Wave. This is an ability cast by the Flamewalker elites, and what is important to notice here is the mob behavior is programmed so that way they don't do Blast Wave for about the first 20 seconds of the fight, which means if you can kill 2 of these guys in the first 20 seconds, they just don't do any damage at all basically to your entire raid. But don't take my word for it on this one log. Let's go look at all of the domos that I've done so far. The first one, it took 20 seconds. The second log, it took 25 seconds. It took 24 seconds on the third log, 20 seconds on the fourth. This one, oh wow, that's oddly close, but whatever. And then a couple more. As you can see, literally none of them happened in the first 14 seconds. Almost all of them happened after the original 20 seconds. So if your raid can do 200k damage in the first 20 seconds, then you take 2 blast waves out of the raid damage taken. And also, the elites are really large mobs, and so it's very easy for your melee players to have very good uptime on them. If you're trying to kill the caster DPS first, it's just a reality that you're going to have lower DPS because people are kind of shit at targeting really tiny mobs in a particular kill order. You should also have your priests PI themselves and spam Holy Nova. The mages have arcane power, so they don't need the PI, and you're going to have a lot of mobs die quickly. Also, assign bops to your mages. I didn't do that, so that got Latte killed. Rest in peace, Latte. Last thing to check out is the damage of the mob abilities on this fight. Shadow Shock, this is the thing that's going to do the most damage to you generally, but what's cool is after you kill Luciferon, there's like no shadow damage in the raid, so just have your raid pop a Greater Shadow pot at some point in time after Lucy, and then you'll have it up for Major Domo, and everybody will be able to take about 4 to 5 Shadow Shocks before they take any damage, which means when all the mobs do their Shadow Shock right at the start, you can see that a whole bunch of these happen the first 10 seconds, no raid damage has really been taken from Shadow. You have the first 20 seconds, which also explains why when we were looking at that VOD before, the raid took like no DPS. But even if you didn't use these protection potions, if you're world buffed, you'll be fine. No one's gonna get killed by taking 3,000 damage worth of shadow and 1 or 2,000 damage worth of fire because it's gonna all be a little fanned out.